Hello and welcome to the Kick in the Creatives podcast, hosted by myself, Sandra Busby, and my fellow creative Tara Roskell, offering you interviews, inspiration, motivation, and a gentle prod in the right direction. And for lots more information, challenges, and other useful tools to help you get creating, you can go to www.kickinthecreatives.com. And of course, this is where you can also find today's show notes. Enjoy the show. Welcome to today's episode, and recently we had a suggestion for a topic from Kelly Tompkins on Instagram, and she says, I would love an episode on how to let go of perfectionism or dealing with our inner critic. Well, we actually did an episode on kicking your inner critic's butt, and that was all the way back to episode 3, so you can always go back and have a listen to that one, but we haven't yet covered letting go of perfectionism, so we thought that was a really good idea. So thanks so much for the suggestion, Kelly. But before we get onto that topic, we want to say a big thank you to our latest Ko-fi supporters, Marcia Furman and Penny. As always, we really appreciate the support. Not only does it help us towards the cost of running Kick in the Creatives, which helps us to keep doing what we do, but it also shows that you like what we do. So thank you very much.
And I've got some more thank yous. This feels like one of those speeches, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. We love you.
We do.
So I want to say thank you for the podcast reviews we've had. So we've got one that says it's 5 stars and it says loving it. And it says, just recently discovered this in search for art info. Not only informative, but very fun listen. Kudos. And that's from Santa Bala via Apple Podcasts in the USA. And then we've got another one, another 5-star. We wouldn't read out it wasn't 5-star, would we? No.
Yeah. If it says, this is a rubbish podcast, we'll leave that one out.
Yeah. And this one says, I love listening to Tara and Sandra, mostly Tara. It says, I like hanging out with our artsy friends and having a good time. Oh, it's like hanging out with your artsy friends and having a good time. They're both very knowledgeable, of course, in a variety of mediums and arts. So they have a great so they have great tips and tricks to share. I love to hang out with a podcast on drives or when I'm creating. And that's from number 1156 via Apple Podcasts in the USA. I'm now slightly intrigued what number 1156 is.
Oh, I don't know.
Secret agent, maybe.
Thank you, though, for those. I mean, leaving us reviews, they actually help us, don't they? It's sort of a way you can support us. So we do really thank you for that.
That was my line. You know that, don't you?
I stole it, sorry.
Go on then. Carry on.
We also want to say one more thank you, and that is to everybody who's been sharing their work with us on social media. And this time, Michael Beckett's been catching my eye. He's been doing the Mixed Media March Challenge, and I've been really enjoying following what he's been doing. I can't even pull out a favourite piece of his because I think they've all been really good, and you can see that he's really enjoying himself. He's been drawing all sorts of things. Have you been seeing his work?
I've seen a few, I think, on Instagram. Yeah. He's been showing there as well.
And we've had loads and loads of people taking part in the Quick Kick March Challenge, which is to take a photo from nature every day. And I could not possibly pick out one person out of that bunch because they've just all been so lovely, these photos. And you can see how desperate people are for spring to come, can't you? Because we've had loads and loads of photos of budding flowers, which has been a real treat.
Shall I tell you who I've got that caught my eye?
Yes.
Well, first of all, just in case nobody knows what we're talking about, if you've just tuned in the podcast, basically we have a load of creative challenges, which you can find over in our Facebook group or on our website. So people we're talking about are the people who shared the work with us. So I've got Kirsty Cook, and she's been doing mixed media collage pieces. Absolutely lovely. I don't know if you've seen any of those.
Yes, I have, yeah.
Yeah, so they're really good. And then Esther Arroyo, and she's been doing 5-minute figure sketches. And I can't believe what she can do in 5 minutes. They seem to be getting better and better. She's really capturing them. The proportions are really good. So I am in complete awe.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I think that's the point, isn't it? When you do these 5-minute challenges, it's surprising, isn't it, over time? If you were to compare like the first one you did in a month and then the last, you do improve even with just that short time.
Yeah, and I think before this, she was concentrating on live drawing as well. So she really... It's really coming on. Anyway, what is new with you?
I'm just cracking on with my commission, really. if I get a commission, I tend to just focus on that one thing until it's finished. But I think I already know what I'm going to paint after this one. So it's always good to be inspired and have ideas in advance. So, because quite often I'll finish a painting and then I have this horrible, it's kind of like a lull where I feel a bit empty because I don't know what I'm going to do next. But yeah, so because I've been focusing on this, I'm not really doing anything else until this is done because I need to just crack on with that. But so I haven't got any other news at all.
So what is the new one? Can you tell us what the new one's going to be?
Well, what I wanted, in fact, I've got two in mind. One relies on my dad finding something for me, so I'm not going to talk about that one yet. But the other one, I did these wine bottles, the wine bottle paintings I did.
Yeah, the
recently.
two you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to do a really big one now, of like that, but with fairy lights again, but with almost like... I did one where the composition was really sort of strange angles, but then I did another one where the composition was more simple, but it had the fairy lights. I think I want to try and do one that kind of has the best of both worlds, but really big.
I thought you got bored of doing the fairy lights.
Oh my gosh, no.
Oh, I thought you got fed up. 'Cause,
No, I'm talking about, the wine bottle painting with the fairy lights. Yeah. Oh, no, I love painting fairy lights. God,
I thought you got fed up with the wires and stuff.
Oh, no, that was... No. That was the one I actually did of just fairy lights. Do you remember?
Oh, okay.
And it was just like... It wasn't me getting fed up with the wires. It was just like... It was quite a slog.
Yeah.
Trying to look really closely at how they work and how they're, But no, I still love it. It's just a bit of a puzzle. But no, I've never got fed up with anything when I'm painting if I'm enjoying it. But anyway, what about you? What is new with you?
Well, I did a 2-part watercolour figure painting workshop, but I didn't enjoy it, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, no, really? Why not?
Yeah, because I thought it was going to be, I like figure drawing, and I thought, but I really want to be able to add colours to them in a good way, and I haven't yet found a way that really works for me. And I do quite like watercolours for that sort of thing. I have done a bit of watercolours, tried to do it on figures. And this guy who was teaching it works very loosely. Wet in wet, but I just found it, I think because he was trying to cater for all levels. So it was 2 3-hour sessions, and basically the first session we didn't do any figure painting. It was all up until we got to maybe the last half an hour, and then he got you painting a leg using one stroke of the brush, which I was terrible at because I don't paint much, and I definitely wouldn't paint in that manner. But the rest was all like, here's how to do a graduation, here's how to do a wet and wet swatch,
right?
And it's like, I kind of know that stuff. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean I'm great at it, but I've covered that. So I just found it a little bit tedious. And actually, the second lesson, I didn't make it till the end. I hate to admit.
Was this free?
No, this was a paid one.
Right.
But some people were absolutely loving it. So it all just depended. It just didn't go. I'm very bad anyway because I don't like sitting, copying. Do you know what I mean? For too long.
No.
I just get bored. But I just didn't find it was for me. So, which was a bit of a shame.
Well, they can't all be for you, can they? I mean, you loved your last one, didn't you? Your Lewis Rosignol one.
Totally loved that one. But which was such a shame. And also, we've got news, haven't we? Because we've just released our first course, which is how to use water-soluble wax pastels. And that's being hosted over on Cora Bullock's website. But we've got a link, which is kickingthecreatives.com/neocolours. But yeah, I mean, I'd got loads of questions, hadn't I, about how to use them. People asking advice. So basically put together this course that goes quite in depth and you work on 4 projects plus a bonus one. So if anyone's interested, that's on pre-sale at the moment over on kickingthecreatives.com/neocolours.
And
so I'll be sorting that out.
Yeah. If you want to know what sort of thing Tara means, if you go onto her Instagram, which is Tara Roskell. Is that right? Tara Roskell?
Yeah. You know her name?
I never know if there's a dot between it.
No.
Because mine's Sandra Busby, so I always think yours is Tara, but it's not. It's Tara Roskell. And if you sort of scroll down a bit, you'll see these really punchy, abstract faces done in neo colour too. And they are so vivid and so vibrant. And I mean, everyone loves them, don't they? So it's like there's quite a lot of step-by-step guidance in there. There's tips in there. And you do from the very beginning of sort of knowing how to use them to tips that you can use them a bit differently, don't you?
Yeah, and it's not just the abstract faces. There's an abstract face, there's a character, there's a parrot. You paint a kind of realistic parrot, and then a kind of canal scene.
Yeah.
So there's quite a few different things.
It's really worth it. And you can see the link if anybody wants to find it quickly. There's a link also on our Facebook page and our Facebook group.
And it'll be in our show notes. So.
Exactly. And you just had your jab, haven't you?
Oh, yes. I'm the biggest wimp ever.
How big was it, the needle?
I didn't look. It's funny because I got there and I was having to go to all these vaccination centres and my partner drove me. So I went in and everything and I got to the booth and then she's got the chair turned the opposite way around, so it's like against, you couldn't sit on it. And so she goes, "Are you all right standing up?" And I go, "No." And so, so I sat down and she said, I told her I was nervous. So, shall I not tell you what I'm doing? I said, "Yeah, don't tell me." So, yeah, she just did it then. And to be honest, it hurt way less than I anticipated. It was pretty nothing. But my arm's been aching afterwards. But I've been lucky because I haven't, touch wood, I haven't had any other side effects apart from a bit of an achy arm.
Yeah, because some people say that they feel a bit rubbish the day after. Yeah. But it depends because out of all of the people I know that have had it so far, only 2 people out of, I think, 6 have felt any after effects, apart from a bit of a sore arm. So,
yeah.
I mean, obviously, being that I'm a complete spring chicken compared to you, I haven't been invited for mine yet. No. How many months younger than you am I? I don't know.
You're a year and a few months, aren't you? Year and a half, I think, actually.
Is it?
Yeah, because I'm 51. And you're 49,
Oh, right. I was always thinking it was only half a year.
No.
Okay, yes. Oh, you see what I mean? Obviously, I'm far younger than than Tara. So, but I should imagine I'd get mine at some point in the next couple of months, I'd have thought. But, yeah. Anyway, on to actual art topics again, because we're straying as usual. And let's get on to what we're talking about today, which is the curse of perfectionism for artists. And when we're talking about perfectionism, we're not talking about realism paintings. We're not talking about that. We're talking about not knowing when to stop and never being satisfied with what you produce. And I think the first thing I would say is that I doubt there's an artist in the world who ever thinks the piece of art they've just produced is perfect. Most artists will always be striving to do better. And actually, if I ever stood back and thought, wow, that is perfection, then I wonder if that need to keep going on would still be as strong for me. I think the challenge of doing better is half the fun. But there is a difference between doing the best you can and taking something too far. And if you're one of those artists who is constantly going back to a piece and fiddling with it, then the first thing you need to do is ask yourself why you are striving for perfection. Are you striving for perfection because you enjoy the process of getting there? Because if that's the case, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if, on the other hand, you're striving for perfection to prove to other people or to yourself that you're good enough, then that's not such a healthy way to be thinking. Nobody's art is perfect. Nobody's life is perfect. So why should yours be?
Yeah, I think one of the causes of perfectionism is that you compare yourself to other people. And you feel like you don't measure up. I mean, I'm really guilty of this. You know, we've got to try and measure ourselves up to our own work and work at our own pace. So it's fine to look back at yourself and think, oh, I have moved on. Or, it's not good enough yet, but it will be. But to look at somebody else's, because you just don't know their circumstances. You don't know how long they've been doing it. You don't know how long they spend on it. So someone could have been only doing art for a year, but maybe they draw all day. So they're just going to be at a completely different level to you. And plus, it's really hard to look at stuff like for like. I mean, like if we even tried to compare ourselves, you just couldn't compare something I draw to something you paint, could you?
No, because
they're just so realms apart.
But not in skill. It's just that they're too different. to compare.
Well, they are different in skill, but it's just different skills, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. One's not better than the other, or it's just different.
Yeah.
And also, just like you were saying, there's as much as however good you get, you're always going to be able to get better. And there's always going to be someone better than you. Even when you are at the best you can never be, there'll always be someone better than you. But equally, you'll always be better than someone other people. So
yeah, I was thinking about it. It's like when you start doing some sort of exercise, like if you start running, you don't automatically assume that you should be good as world-class athletes.
No.
But you kind of do that when you draw, don't you?
You
do sort of think, why aren't I that good yet? Even maybe after you've done it for a year. So if I'd been running for a year, I wouldn't think, why aren't I as good as the top athletes, even of my own age, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because I just wouldn't.
No.
And yet we were with art, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think another problem with comparing ourselves to others is that we can lose aspects of what we do that makes us original to try and, make it so our art is right or correct, and we might try and adapt our ways of what we're creating to be more like someone that we admire, even if it's not us.
Yeah.
Like there's a woman on Instagram and she creates characters, and I really love the characters she creates. And I could probably emulate her style. So she uses oil pastels. I have no doubt that if I got some oil pastels, I could probably look at her work and create something in a similar ilk. But that wouldn't really be mine. It'd be fine to do as an exercise and to take inspiration from, but it's just not me, is it? It's me trying to be perfect by just copying her. Yeah.
Then you're losing the opportunity, aren't you, to have your own style and be really good at that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll use this podcast as an example. So if I was going to compare this podcast to a professionally produced BBC masterpiece, for example, then, well, I would have stopped doing this ages ago. I wouldn't have even started. Because this isn't a perfect podcast. It's not meant to feel like a perfect podcast. If everything we said was word perfect, would it be as much fun for you to listen to anyway? I mean, I could spend hours editing out all of the and the R's and the mistakes and Tara's printer going off in the background and word stumbles, you name it. But if I was going to edit out all of those little bits that make it imperfect, then I don't think it would be the same podcast. I mean,
plus
don't get me wrong.
It'd be 5 minutes, wouldn't it? 5 minutes long.
Don't get me wrong. I do edit it. Of course I edit it, but I only edit it to a point. I don't want to pretend we're something we're not. And also I think it would probably lose part of its charm if suddenly Tara and I sounded, word perfect. It wouldn't be the same. And the same thing can happen with a piece of art. If you work on something beyond a certain point, then you can be taking away the bones of it. And then it just becomes a superficial piece rather than... you just don't want to bury what made it in the first place.
Do you know what? Sometimes I listen back to bits of our podcast, like when you send me bits or whatever,
yeah.
And I think, oh my God, I sound like Alice out of Vicar of Dibley.
Oh, that's so funny.
I think I am quite intelligent, really, but I really don't sound it there.
Do you know, I it's funny. I want to get a new microphone at some point. My microphone I've got is decent, it is, but I just feel like maybe a different microphone would make me sound more professional and sexy. That sort of rounded voice. I always think your voice sounds very much more radio-like, and I sound like a 5-year-old. And actually, to this day, bearing in mind I'm 49, to this day, well, I say that not now. I only really use my mobile, but when we had landlines, it was only perhaps 5 years ago, we still bothered with a landline. And if somebody rang, like a sales call or something like that, so often I would get, "Is your mummy there?"
Really?
I'm mummy. Actually, I'm not mummy, I'm grandma. "Oh, you sound so young." What they're trying to say is, "Oh, you sound like a child." It drives me nuts. So, yeah, I quite like it when I've got a cold for that reason, because my voice sounds much better.
Yeah. Well, I did see you actually put in our group, because we
Yeah.
had a question up about, like, if you won £50 to spend on, something to do with art materials, and you went on there and said, I'd buy a microphone to make myself sound like the BBC and sexy, and I said, I think you're going to need more than 50 quid. I don't know if you saw that.
I haven't seen that yet. Oh, you're so mean.
I know.
You're so mean.
And
but we are who we are. We are who we are, aren't we?
Another problem with being a perfectionist is that it can make you wait until you feel the situation is completely perfect to start. Now, that could be waiting for new paper or paints to arrive. It could be waiting for the right challenge to come along, or for a time when you feel you're really worthy. You'll improve so much more if you just start today rather than waiting for the perfect conditions. And I don't know about you, but I am guilty of this as well. Because I have this idea for this challenge I want to set myself, and I think I keep moving the date when I'll start it to be this perfect condition, because I'm scared that what I create won't live up to the ideas in my head. And I think that is one of the old perfectionism problems.
But the thing is, they probably won't live up to it to begin with.
No, they won't.
They won't. It's like, I remember this. I had the same problem when I started, and I've spoken about this before, so I'm not going to go over it again, too much. But it's just that when I very first started sketching years and years ago, I've spoken about this, where I bought my sketchbook and I just didn't open it for 6 months because I was too scared of spoiling the pages. And the fact was, when I started sketching, no, they weren't great. Of course they weren't going to be great. It was never going to be a case of I'll draw my first sketch as soon as the planets have aligned and it'll be a good sketch. It was never going to work like that. You have to just do it and get past plenty of really bad ones, don't you? And the same would be for when you want to start your challenge. You'll probably find that, you will be disappointed, but you've got to do it anyway.
Yeah, it's that thing where you've built it up in your head so long, and it gets worse, I think, because the longer you wait, it builds up in your head, and you build it into this mammoth thing that's going to be amazing, and then you're scared that it's not going to be amazing.
Yeah. And also, the planets never align.
No.
I've spoken about that before. People talk about the planets aligning. Apparently that doesn't ever happen. So don't bother waiting. Okay. Yeah, I think, like I said, I used to suffer from perfectionism in my sketchbook. Firstly, it took me a long time to start sketching. And then when I did sketch, obviously I did improve and kept improving. And then the problem was, what I was using my sketchbook for in the end was kind of making these little drawings as opposed to quick sketches. And that was because I was scared to do something that was just quick and spontaneous. And I think it makes you hesitant, doesn't it, that perfectionism? And as a result, you kind of lose that spontaneity that gives a sketch its charm. And thankfully, I eventually let go of that. And my sketching style now is completely changed, and it's probably the polar opposite now. And the way I did that was just by continuously daring not to care. And once I'd shaken that need to be perfect, the fear went with it, and my whole approach to sketching changed, because I could see something else that is much better than perfectionism, and that's just the pure fun of it. And now, when I compare my recent sketchbooks to my old ones, it's my recent ones which hold all the charm and the character, and the ones that I most enjoy looking through, whereas my old ones just look really stiff and boring in comparison. And you'll find that if you do a quick sketch and then you try to do the same sketch again, but better, you'll most likely prefer the first one. And Tara, you've got a way, haven't you, of taking away the ability to fuss, and that's by setting a timer, which I must say I actually hate doing. I don't like doing that. I don't like sketching under pressure, because I'm then focusing more on the time than I am the sketch. But it does work for a lot of people, so definitely give it a go. It definitely works for you, doesn't it, Tara?
Yeah, and I think what's great about that as well is it makes you eliminate everything that's not important.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a 5-minute drawing, you're literally only going to put down the important things.
Yeah.
And what you can do is you can set yourself times, and we used to do this years ago at college, and it gradually go down. So draw something in 10 minutes, and then you draw it in 8 minutes, and you draw it in 5 minutes. You see how low you can get it and see how different it is. And sometimes I actually find, like, when I do a life drawing class, I will actually prefer my 2-minute drawings to say when we get 15, because they just got this sort of loose spontaneity in them, just that I love.
Yeah, I like that. It's nice sometimes to work a bit longer on a sketch. I mean, when we used to go to London, sometimes the two of us used to sketch perhaps while we were on the way to meeting. And I know that I sketched some people on the train, didn't I? And there was a young boy I sketched, and there was a boy wearing his headphones. That kind of sketches, because the person on the train was asleep, so I might have worked it up more, and it's more like a little drawing, but actually they're still nice because I've just lost myself in it. But when you're actually out and about sketching, you can't take that approach. You can't really try and get a likeness. You can't try to make it a perfect drawing. It's never going to happen. So there is a time and a place to work something up a bit more without losing that freshness and spontaneity, but still making it a slightly more polished drawing. But I think it's recognising when to stop. That's the most important thing. And, I think, because you liked those drawings, didn't you, that I did on the train? And I
really like those.
Yeah, and I just don't think I overworked them. I think I did it and then thought, oh, well, I'll go on to something else now. And it might just been someone's hands, or I kind of like that kind of sketching as well.
I think you were talking before about sketchbooks and how you do something in a sketchbook and you prefer that to sort of working something up.
Yeah.
And I find that so much that because when I'm in my sketchbook, that's kind of my play time. It's like, I'm not concerned. It's not, and I'm not trying to create a finished piece. I'm just playing.
Yeah.
And doodling. And I'll create some things and I think I really like that. But it might be in black and white, and maybe I want that in colour. And I used to get a board out, or a piece of paper out to then try and copy this thing. And then I'd, try and colour it up. And it always looked terrible. I just completely lost the spontaneity. And the only way I've found to do it now is to literally scan in or photograph that sketchbook, and then you can either put it on a light box if your paper's thin enough and trace it, or create a layer of carbon on the back, using your pencil once you've got it the size you want, and literally trace it off, because otherwise you cannot capture those lines. And I think that is one thing that shows that when you're trying to be a perfectionist and try and do something all neat, you really don't capture that loose spontaneity.
Yeah, there's a freshness to it, isn't there?
Yeah.
I find that with a lot of my sketches. I couldn't even, do you know what? Some of the ones I do, I couldn't even trace, because it would still be stiff in comparison, because the lines are so quick and free. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult if you've got different line weights.
Yeah.
Well, like, say you've used your calligraphy fountain pen.
Yeah.
Which
exactly.
Now, by the way, I am now loving.
Oh, do you know what? I thought you probably would eventually. Yeah, because you didn't like it at first, did you?
I didn't, and I hadn't got the ink flowing very well. This is, by the way, this is a Lamy Joy calligraphy pen, which I was trying to get to like fountain pens. But now I've actually bought cartridges. I've given up. I know you told me I should go with the ink filler.
Yeah.
But if I just put in a cartridge, off you go. And it's actually not clogging at the moment, so fingers crossed, I'm still going to like it.
I don't think it should clog. Mine's never clogged. I think as if you don't use it for a few weeks
that's the
or
problem.
something.
I won't use it for a bit.
Yeah, well, that's fine, because as long as you're using the right ink, you should be able to just run the nib under a warm water just to get any dried ink off of it. But it should be fine. It's just making sure you use the right ink.
Yeah.
It's like anything, isn't it? You can. I've been making these cakes.
We're going off track again, aren't we? Go on,
I know.
about your cakes.
I know. I don't know. And if anyone listened to our last couple of episodes, I've been trying. I don't even know if I talked about this on the episode, but I've been trying some baking. That's what lockdown has done for me. I'm useless, absolutely useless. Always have been at making cakes. Never got a sponge to rise, and I put a photo on Facebook, didn't I, of that Victoria sandwich that I put on, and each layer was like about a centimetre thick. It was so fun. It was like 2 biscuits, and it was just learning I actually went onto YouTube and thought, right, what am I doing wrong? I was watching Mary Berry, and there's certain things.
Oh my God, I can't believe you did that.
I know. But there's certain things that make such a difference. It's all the same ingredients, but it's knowing, like, I don't know why I'm talking about this, but it's knowing like the eggs should be room temperature, and you should. There's all sorts of things that just will make a lot of difference. And now my cakes are, if I say so myself, pretty good. They're like really light and airy, and it's just that practice, and it's just knowing how to use things correctly, like the ink, using the right ink in a pen. And I actually made I made spotted dick. Oh my God, it was lovely. It was. Have you had one of those?
I wonder why Felicity Fizz was talking about that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I haven't had a spotted dick since I was a teenager, probably. And I'll tell you what.
For the Americans, if they don't know what this is like a sponge pudding that's got dried fruit in it.
Yeah, it's really nice, really, really nice. Anyway, I don't know why I'm talking about that. Sorry, I did.
How are you
really
going to link that into perfectionism?
I don't even know where we are. Oh yeah. This is something we've talked about in a previous episode. I think it's actually in the previous episode. But it is easy to think of a sketchbook as a work of art in itself, particularly since there are so many sketchbook flip-throughs on social media these days. But if you can just let go of that and instead just treat it as a place to have fun and play around, then you'll end up enjoying the sketches as much as the finished piece. And it might be, for completely different reasons, but it will have a quality of its own. There, I did it.
Well, I was going to say about that, because I definitely have this problem with the sketchbook. Yes, definitely a place to play. And then when I get into finish work, not so much a place to play. I do a bit, don't get me wrong, but once you know how to do something, and if you keep creating a similar style, there's less playing involved. But the other day I thought, right, I'm going to treat a board, a mixed media board, as a place to play. And so I did. And I treated it much more like I would my sketchbook. Yeah. So I got out my gum tape, got some markers out, and it was very much unplanned kind of thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think that's something you can't do as well digitally, isn't it?
I think you can do it digitally. There's no reason that the problem with digital is obviously you've got so many undos, but just because you've got an undo button doesn't mean you have to use it.
There's something about seeing bits of paper and tape and, bits of washi tape and I don't know whatever else you can pin on a mood board, though. That's kind of the three-dimensional part of it I like, that visual.
Yeah, I guess you can fake it on on digital.
Yeah.
When I did the Post-it notes, they were all done digitally.
Oh, right. So, you see, we wouldn't have known that.
Yeah, I did actually take photographs of Post-its, but then because I wasn't happy with my photos, I kind of drew. I made the images look like they were Post-its, basically, and then I would just draw on top of them. So all of that was done digitally, and you would never know. Anyway, perfectionism can also make you scared to try something new for fear of failure. And it not looking as good as the work you already do. I think in question, this is for you and your sketchbook, Sandra, because you used to be scared to go loose because you knew you could do these really lovely drawings in your sketchbook. And you're scared that if you try this drawing, it's going to look a bit crap compared to what you can do already. Yeah. But I think if you do want to move on, you've actually just got to accept that, yes, it might fail, but you're going to enjoy the process and realise that it's going to take time to get good at it, even if it is that really loose sketch as opposed to the really nice drawing. Another thing is when you get annoyed. I am so guilty of this. I get really annoyed if I do a drawing that's not as good as I want it to be. I can get in a rather stroppy mood. It's a bit like my partner when he plays golf. I know when he comes back if he's had a good game or not.
Right.
And
is he all moody when he comes in?
Yeah. And I'm a bit like that when I've done a bad drawing. I'm a bit not in a great mood. But you just got to try. Here's me saying he's very bad at it. You've got to try and not let yourself beat yourself up about it, because it's just a bit of paper, isn't it? It doesn't really matter.
Why is it then that you get like that? Is it because you've spent the time on it and it's been a waste of time? Is that what you feel?
Yes, and it's that not measuring up to what I had in my head. So, I've come in my room and it's like I've got a drawing. I put it on Instagram the other day that I did of this woman, and she's got a kind of, it sounds really odd if I say this, but she's got like a bird coming out of her eye, and then she's got kind of this cartoony person with a skirt on coming out of her head. And the drawing I did, because I started off with an ink drawing, and I really liked it, and I thought, oh, this is going to look brilliant. Even if I do say so myself, this is going to look so good. And then I started putting the colour on it, and I thought, this doesn't look as good as I thought it was. And the more colour I put on it, the less I liked it.
Yeah, so you just worked on it too long as well.
Yeah, and I think I should have just left a lot of white space, whereas I decided to go for my normal kind of way of painting, where it's a full-on everything colour. And it just didn't work. But it's one of those things where you had it at one point.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was going to say, I wonder if you had, when you first thought, oh, this is just not going well, if you'd have just stopped and then looked at it the next day, whether you might have gone, I quite like it now. Because that happens, doesn't it? Sometimes you think something's not great, and then you close your sketchbook and I'm never letting that see the light of day again. And then you accidentally come across it a week or so later, or a month or a year, and you think, I don't know what I didn't like about it.
I think perhaps what I should have done is I could have perhaps rescued it before I put all the colour on. I was always intending to put on all this colour.
Right.
But clearly it did not need all this colour. And if I'd have stopped when I first started putting on some of the colour and looked at that fresh in the morning, I could have perhaps thought, hang on a minute, if I just only put a few accents of colour in different places, rather than going full out, that might have worked. But it's not awful, but it's just not, do you know what I mean? It's not what was in my head. It's not what it was like when it was just a drawing.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And it's never a waste of time because, it's just another lesson learned, isn't it, really?
Yeah. And it is frustrating, even though
it is frustrating. And
it's supposed to be talking about being good and all that.
Well, no, but it just shows that it's normal. Everybody, no matter how experienced you are, we all have these feelings and we're all guilty of it. It's just trying to figure out ways of not being precious. I mean, all I could say about it is that when I stopped being precious, I love my sketchbooks so much more. And even when the sketches aren't great, I've enjoyed the process of doing them so much more, which is the most important thing. I mean...
So what are your favourite sketches at the moment? I know you did some blind contours that you really liked.
Yeah,
you never thought you would.
Those. No, and I really did, and threw a bit of watercolour on them, and I just thought, I really like those. And do you know what? I was thinking this the other day. When you are either very much a beginner artist, or someone who doesn't draw or paint at all, and you look at some art, say perhaps quick sketches, you might look at that art and think, oh my God, anyone can do that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Say, for instance, you look at, you've got a lot of artists at the moment do very naively looking drawings and, but I love them. Perhaps something like Louis Rossignol, I absolutely adore his stuff, so do you, and I think a lot of people do. But when you're not somebody who has looked at a lot of art and actually paints or draws, I think you don't appreciate that kind of art because you don't really understand it. You don't know what's behind it. You don't see the skill in it, no. When you are an artist and you've been doing it for a long time, you look at that and you can really see the value in that piece, can't you? And you can see the skill behind it. So I think it's when you're at different stages of your art career, you start to appreciate things you start appreciating the work that goes into these things, despite what they, the outcome, whether that's some of my sketches in my sketchbook, I would say that the ones I like the most are probably the ones that Paul would look at and go, oh my God, what were you doing? What is that? Yet he'll look at the ones I did where I was really trying, and be like, oh yeah, I really like that, because he's not really understanding the process. And just going to your question, my favourite sketches are the ones where I posted one of them once on my Instagram. Looks completely out of place in amongst everything else. It was just a man sitting on a bench, and I used my Lamy calligraphy joy pen, and it's just a black and white drawing of this guy sitting on the bench, and it's just it's just squiggly lines, but you can see what it is, and I really like that.
Yeah, I must admit, going back to what you were saying before about the naive drawings, and how you end up appreciating that. If I sat down now, I would find it far easier to draw a fairly realistic face. I don't mean hyper-realism or anything, but if I was just going to sit and copy a face, I could sit and copy a face and get a fairly decentish likeness, and I would find that significantly easier than trying to do something that was a little bit more off the wall, maybe a little bit more abstracted, because there's different thinking involved.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying one's better than the other or anything like that.
No.
But your brain has to work differently. For me, if I can sit and draw something, my brain can switch off quite a bit if I'm drawing something that's in front of me. Whereas if I'm thinking, what can I do with this? My brain can't switch off.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And I think when you are experienced as well, you can tell the difference between somebody who's choosing to paint in a naive way or draw in a naive way, and somebody who is a beginner.
Yeah,
they are
definitely
painting in a naive way because they haven't learnt the skills. Do you know what I mean? So there is a big difference
there are some
between
people that you think, I don't know.
Maybe they're in the between stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I think if you're worried about the outcome before you even start, that alone can delay you actually getting going, or at best your progress of moving forward and getting something done. I mean, on that, I suppose you could say is procrastination, isn't it? And at the end of the day, that is just fear of failure. And it's that you need to let go of, because you can't learn a lesson without doing something wrong. It's those mistakes that make us get better in the end.
Yeah, so you're failing by not starting, aren't you, there?
Yeah, absolutely.
I also think that perfectionism can lead to that overwork thing. It's almost like we were just talking about that bit of art that I did. I don't know if necessarily the piece of art I created was overworked. It was just not done maybe the way I should have done it. But it just makes something look really sterile, doesn't it? If you keep on going.
Yeah.
It lacks energy and movement. And I think you have to sometimes try get into a point in your art where you're really not sure. Is that enough? And you want to sort of stand back for a bit, even if that's just going to make a cup of tea or something, or sleeping on it. I'm not very good at sleeping on painting, I must admit.
Bit uncomfortable.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? I'm not good at coming back to something. I don't like working on something again.
No.
I know you're quite happy to come back and keep doing your layers and stuff like this, but I like to finish something in one sitting.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I can't walk away for 10 minutes and then come back and look at it with sort of semi-fresh eyes. And I like doing that with sketchbooks, actually. I'll do these sketches at night with no preciousness whatsoever. It's just like, oh, let's try this out. But I love then looking at them in the morning. I don't know if you do this. Because I look at them when I do them, and I think, I couldn't tell you if that's absolutely terrible or if that's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, you need to go away and shut your eyes and come back.
I still can't tell if they're absolutely brilliant or not. But I've got more idea in the morning that if they're terrible,
I think as well, comparing sketching and painting, you can overwork a sketch, you can overwork a painting. So there's we're not sort of talking about one or the other. It's knowing, isn't it, just when to stop. And whether that's a realism painting, you can overwork a realism painting. I always like, with my paintings, I like them to look like what I'm painting, but at the same time, I want people to know it's a painting. Do you know what I mean? So it's knowing when to stop and thinking, oh, do that mark, I like that. Do I want to blend that in with no, I should just leave it. So it's just understanding when to walk away. Was it Van Gogh? I probably got this completely wrong. I do know the answer to this, but who said a piece of art is never finished, it's only abandoned. I'm sure he said something like that. And it's so true. It's so true. You have to just know when to abandon something. And you're far better off abandoning something early than late, because you can't really undo when you overwork something. You really can't. And so you're better off leaving something unsaid. If you think about it, a writer is just like an artist. The only difference between a writer and a painter is that they're painting a picture with words rather than a brush. But a writer wouldn't get bogged down with perfecting their grammar in a first draft. They're not looking back and checking each paragraph as they write it. That would be a crazy way to write a book. It's all about just getting the bones of the story down. They only go back to the beginning when the first draft is down. So trying to get everything right straight away would not lead to a good book. They would just keep losing their thread all the time. And I think that's whether you're painting a finished piece of art or a sketch, you've just got to get the bones of it down and then decide whether to go on and keep working on it or not.
Yeah, that's like blogging. I used to blog a lot, and it was basically, and this can sound terrible, but when you first write your blog post, it's basically like vomiting. Vomiting on the document. You just spit everything onto the page. It doesn't read well. It's just because I always find you're making your mind up as you're writing, because you don't really know the answers, which is almost like if you're painting something, painting or drawing something, you don't necessarily know the answer, how you're going to do it. So you're literally just chucking everything on the page. And then it's only after you've got that first draft, like you say, that you actually try and make sense of it all.
Yeah.
Remember, nothing in life is perfect. If you're a perfectionist, you'll never get something to a stage where you think it's perfect anyway. So just learn when to stop and move on. And so now we've got the answers to our previous question. And the question was, what's the weirdest or funniest thing that's happened to you while you're creating? Now, I have to admit, I thought we'd get absolutely no answers to this.
You did, didn't you?
Yeah. So I was quite amazed by how many we got.
Yeah, you should always listen to me, you see. But what I have noticed is you've given me the longest. It's like an essay.
I know. You always get those.
You always give me the longest one.
I do. Yes, I'm not denying it.
So the first answer was from Rusilla Moodley, and she says, this experience was weird as in supernatural. It happened 4 years ago while I was painting a nebula. What was weird was a prompting to go outside, which I initially ignored. As I completed the painting, the urge to go out became stronger, so I needed to take the painting with me to dry as it was a sunny day. As I walked out, I heard the flutter of wings. Lo and behold, I saw a large, beautiful butterfly on a pillar. As I stood motionless, it gently rose, and to my surprise, I noticed that there was another one below it. They hovered for a few seconds, and then they were gone. I stood in awe, knowing full well what had happened. You see, for as long as I can remember, butterflies and birds have always been a sign of departed loved ones. What was surprising was that there were two. An elderly aunt had recently passed away, but I didn't know what the other meant. I rushed back into the house to share the news with my mum. Later on, we heard the news that my aunt's sister had also crossed over earlier that day. How remarkable to be blessed with spirit communication, more so when a painting connects with the galaxy. That is weird. That is weird. And sad.
Yeah, I've got Andy W. Art, and he says, funniest. A colleague from a design studio I worked in loved pranking me. I got revenge one lunch hour when he went to the pub. With a thin black thread, I created a hidden netword tied to small objects on his desk and shelving above him. I connected them all to the handset of his desk phone. When he returned, he carried on drawing as normal, and inevitably, during the afternoon, his phone rang. When he answered, it was like a scene from Poltergeist. I love that.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, Michael Beckett. I am known to be completely oblivious to anything while I'm in create mode. In fact, anyone pulling me out of my zone will get snapped at. I don't mean anything personal by it. It's just my Pavlov response. So, anything funny or weird or otherwise noteworthy going on, I would miss by telling the offending parties to F off and leave me alone.
Oh.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, I've got Lucy Bell, and she says, I make these little ceramic people. I call them shelf sitters. Mostly
Oh,
swimmers.
that's hard to say, isn't it?
Yeah. I should have given you this one, shouldn't I? Mostly swimmers. I was out making in my studio. I made a few and they were sitting drying. But as I got up, one decided enough was enough and threw herself off my workbench. At least I can assume this was the case. I turned round to see her lying face down. Did she jump or was she pushed? After an investigation, a verdict of misadventure was pronounced. See, this is why I give you the long ones, because I can't read them out.
Well, luckily I can edit you to make you sound quite normal.
Okay.
As long as I don't overwork it. Okay. Ardith Goodwin. So I was teaching a painting workshop and felt something odd in my pants.
So that's trousers in American speak. So it's not knickers like we'd think.
Oh, you see, I was thinking something odd in your underwear. Yeah, pants over here is knickers or men's pants, unlike underwear. Anyway, I should have read these before.
Yeah.
Let me start this again. I was teaching a painting workshop and felt something odd in my pants. I grabbed the spot and realised something squished inside my pants leg. This could take on a whole other meaning, you see.
Yeah, but remember pants is trousers.
Yes.
Yeah.
I panicked and dropped my pants in the middle of the class and ran out of the door to the bathroom. It was a neon green caterpillar. The painters were rolling on the floor laughing until they saw the dead carcass. Thankfully, I was wearing boxer shorts that day and didn't go butt naked in front of everyone. I mixed some lime green paint to match and carried on. It was quite the memorable workshop.
That's hilarious. Years
Love
ago,
it.
I remember my mum did something similar.
What, dropped her pants?
Yeah, dropped her trousers. We were in the kitchen. I was a kid, and she got her friend round. All of a sudden, she just dropped her trousers, but a bee had gone up her leg.
Oh my God. Oh yeah. I would do that.
I've got Claudia Adams, and she says, on more than one occasion, I've dipped my brush in my tea, and I'm guessing I'm not the only one. No, you're definitely not the only one.
No, I've done it loads of times.
Yeah.
And we have a brand new question for you, which is, what is the strangest thing you've ever done with an art tool that does not involve what it was meant for? So what is the strangest thing you've ever done with an art tool that doesn't involve what it was meant for? Tara.
Now, doesn't this involve something similar to that ridiculous question that you asked a while back about what could you do with a pencil that was not meant for when we just couldn't hold it together?
Oh,
now,
God.
this is very similar to that.
Very similar. Yes. Have you got an answer?
No. Well, have you got one?
I have, actually.
Go on then.
So when my kids were really small, well, actually Charlie was really, really small, but Adele was about 6. And she asked me how she got into my tummy. And of course, I was a bit like a rabbit in the headlights, and I was thinking, I wasn't prepared for this. She's very young to be asking this. So this is the story I told her, and I said, so if you imagine the mummy is the pencil sharpener, and the daddy,
God.
no, it's not that bad, and the daddy is the pencil,
Yeah.
and what the pencil does is he leaves the shavings inside the pencil sharpener.
It's horrible.
And then the shavings turn into a brand new baby pencil. That's all I said. I didn't demonstrate with a pencil and the pencil sharpener, by the way. But you know what? She went off happy as Larry with that story, and that lasted her until she was about 9. But you know what? To this day, she remembers it, and she is. I mean, her kids are a bit young at the moment, but she says, I'm going to use that one for them.
Oh, God.
Yeah, didn't ask any questions. Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes loads of sense.
Yeah, so that's probably the strangest thing I've ever done with an art tool. I've used them to describe how the birds and the bees. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, as always, if you've got any other weird answers to go with that question, I'm sure there won't be any for this one either.
There will be. There will be.
You can tweet us your answers at Kick Creatives or let us know in the Facebook group, which if you haven't joined, I highly suggest you do. We'll put the question up there and on the Facebook page, and of course also on our Instagram page, and that is Kick in the Creatives.
And we hope that gave you the kick in the creatives you needed. And don't forget to pop over to our website at kickinthecreatives.com to find out how you can take part in some of our upcoming creative challenges. And of course, there you can also subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you are enjoying the podcast, we've really been enjoying those reviews. So we'd be so grateful if you haven't left us a review. If you would, it'd be brilliant. And just a star rating will do if you don't have a lot of time.
Also, don't forget to check out and subscribe to our Kicking the Creatives YouTube channel, where we create art tips videos.
And if you enjoy what we do and you'd like to help support Tara and I here at Kick in the Creatives, you can now support us by buying us a coffee. And you can find a link to that on our website. So that's it for this time, and we'll see you soon.
See ya. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and if you did, perhaps you'd like to share it and leave a review for us on iTunes. Back soon.
And then I would just draw on top of them. So all of that was done digitally. And you would never know.
I don't know where we are.
So it's my turn now. So
it all went wrong with the cakes.
Yeah. By the way, Sandra is now looking for a new co-host for a new cooking and baking show.
I don't think I'm quite there yet. Oh my God.